Steelers quarterback battle. And I heard you go on Dave Damashek's program, -3, great podcast, friend of the show, talking about the Steelers quarterback battle. But this comes on the heels of a report that Kenny Pickett would need to be the second coming of Johnny Unitas to start week 1 of the 2022 season. Now, I think it's fair to say whoever wins this quarterback battle between Pickett, Trubisky, Mason Rudolph is going to earn that starting spot given the competition. But I find it ironic, Ike, that this report comes out saying that Pickett would need to be the second coming of Johnny Unitas when revisionist history, but back in 1955, the Steelers actually drafted Johnny Unitas, let him go, and then he went on to star with the Colts. So it's just like I read that report and I'm like, wait a second, this is a quarterback that the Steelers got rid of back in the 1950s.
Little did people know the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Johnny Unitas, let him go, and then he just became a Hall of Famer. What do you know? Between Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky, Mark, I just think, man, it's Mitch Trubisky right now. It's just Mitch Trubisky's job to lose. I don't think they're going to rush Kenny Pickett. Now, Coach T did say on our show a couple of months ago, if Kenny Pickett, if he feels and the coaching staff feels like Kenny Pickett is up to par and he's close enough to Mr. Trubisky, that they will start Kenny Pickett. I think they just known him for a long time, been watched him at the University of Pitt. But I'm going to say it again, Mark. I just think Mr. Trubisky found some greener grass. I think he's well more seasoned. I think he understands. I think he's athletic. I think he has the mindset. And I think now he's just a natural leader. He feels more comfortable within that organization. So right now, I just think it's Mr. Trubisky's job to lose.
And Trubisky's still very young, Ike, because remember, we're talking about the second overall pick of the 2017 draft. So he's still a young quarterback in his own right, does have quite a bit of starting experience. Ike, the 2 dates I have circled on my calendar would be week 10 versus the Saints, because that comes after a bye week. So if you do turn things over to Pickett, you at least have an additional week to prepare. So that would be one. But then if Trubisky is playing well, it's like go with the hot hand and bring Pickett along once he's ready. And I know the salary cap structure has changed things. So I think that's kind of force teams to reevaluate how they bring quarterbacks along, because if a young quarterback is outperforming his rookie contract,
right,
you can then afford to use more money on other position groups and absolutely load up the team around him. But so that would be one. But then it's just like I'm looking at this calendar, like it's like you don't want to throw him and feed him to the wolves too soon. In my opinion too, and like this might not be popular, Ike, and you know that I think Rudolph is a backup, but I don't want to feed him to an elite NFL defense early on in the season. And so I look at the first few games, like, opening week, right, Ike, against the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that was in the Super Bowl last year. Like, I know people want to see Kenny Pickett on the field, but I don't want him going up against where it's like a good coach will put his players in a position to succeed. And I don't want to see that with Pickett early on and forcing him onto the field before he's ready.
Yeah. My personal opinion, Mark, and just tell me how you feel about this. I think they're going to Alex Smith this thing. I think they're going to slow play it. I think they're going to let Mitch Trubisky roll this year and just hand the keys to the car to Kenny Pickett next year. If it's not close. Now, if it's close, they're going to hand the keys to the car to Kenny Pickett. But I just think, man, they're not in a rush to do it. I think they got all the ingredients on the defensive side. I think they got some young stars coming from this wide receiver side. Of course, we got a stud at that running back position and a tight end who could possibly be a great tight end, or the forthcoming like a Heath Miller and Pat Fairmouth. But other than that, Mark, I don't think Pittsburgh going to rush it. I think they're going to look at – because the reason why I don't think so, because they did the same thing with Big Ben, and Tommy Maddox. And then you look at Brett Favre, and after Brett Favre, you have, AR-12. And then you look at Alex Smith, and Alex Smith, you got, Patrick Mahomes. Then you look at Drew Bledsoe, and after Drew Bledsoe, you got Tom Brady. So there is no rush, even though nowadays, these guys been doing a lot of 7-on-7 camps. They've been getting up to par. They've been having at least 10,000 snaps before they even get to college. But I think, man, we still have to understand, Kenny Pickett, they'll be over there at Pitt for 5 years. That's what we do. have to understand that part. And it took his 5th year to get to where he was at. Luckily, it worked out perfect for him. He didn't have to go nowhere. He just stayed in the city of Pittsburgh. So he's a Pittsburgh kid. He's a Yinzer. But I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers going to rush it if it's not as close as they thought it would be with this quarterback position. I think they're going to Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes this thing.
That would be like the ideal scenario of how this works out, because then, like, and you've brought this up in the past too. I've heard you say this before. You have trade bait to where if Trubisky plays well, that's actually a great problem to have. Correct. Because Correct. Then the quarterback position is a premium in this league. So if you have 2 potential starting caliber quarterbacks, that's like, if Trubisky plays well, it's going to be an awesome problem to have. But right. Again, I'm looking at the front half of the schedule, and honestly, I want a veteran in there because I'm looking, okay, Bengals opening week, team that was in the Super Bowl. New England Patriots week 2. Bill Belichick's a veteran coach, knows what to do to, disguise his defense and to confuse quarterbacks. Get a division opponent with the Browns in week 3. The Jets week 4. I mean, the Jets are much improved. I mean, I don't think that they're going to be world beaters, but right. They had 3 first-round draft picks. They've got some young talent. Bills in week 4, Buccaneers. Yeah. My point being, and Ike, when we went through the schedule, the front half of the schedule, in my opinion, is much more difficult than the back half. So that, again, to me is an indicator of, okay, if you want to bring Pickett in, that's fine. But again, put him in a position to succeed, put him in an opportunity to succeed. You say Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes, and that excites me, Ike, because yes, Alex Smith's not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but at his peak, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. He brought the Chiefs to the playoffs. They weren't going to win the Super Bowl with Alex Smith, but I'm sure of this too, that Patrick Mahomes learned from a veteran quarterback like Alex Smith before he took the reins.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, that's the first thing he said about Alex Smith. He taught him how to be a professional. You got to understand that quarterback position, Mark, you're a CEO of the whole team. So it's a lot of things you have to do right, whether it's on the field or off the field. And just learning from Alex Smith with Patrick Mahomes, he's learned a lot. He's doing the same thing. He's been a CEO on the field and he's been a CEO off the field. You just got to walk a certain line when you're the quarterback. And that's what Tom Brady have done, walked a good line. With Big Ben, for the most part, he's walked a good line. And Patrick Mahomes, he's walked a good line. So I'm saying in some situations, when you have a quarterback like a Mitch Trubisky, who's a former Pro Bowler, people don't understand that part either. There's nothing wrong with letting a young Kenny Pickett sit. And that's what I think they should do if it's not close in training camp.